Hello and welcome to the Tillage Edge with me, Michael Hennessy. This is your regular update for all your tillage news and advice. The extreme temperatures across Europe, as well as the war in the Ukraine, are constantly bringing our attention to the importance of food production. Europe, especially Eastern Europe, plays a hugely important part in supplying feed to the world. As we've seen over the past 6 months with the Ukraine, any disruption in grain supply reverberates quickly to world grain markets. Traditionally, the biggest disruptor to this supply was lack of yield, therefore less grain to be exported. Romania borders Ukraine and is also a very important exporter of grain through the Black Sea ports. So today, I'm again delighted to be joined by Jim McCarthy, who's farming in Romania, to give us an insight into the harvest and also a view on grain supply in his part of the world. Jim, when we spoke last, you were very worried about the lack of rainfall. As you said, you were short of a huge amount of water. How did your spring crops get on since we spoke last?
If anything, Michael, that situation actually got worse. All the eastern third of Romania basically has had it from the 1st of September to the end of June, has had its driest one period on record. At the end of June, Michael, all our farms were between 220 and 250 millimeters of rain from the 1st of September last. So we started harvesting on the 1st of July. Those wheat crops are grown with 220 millimeters of rain. So our wheat shields are down 43%. That situation is continuing to worsen for soybeans and corn because the corn is getting huge temperatures at a time that's very vulnerable. Once you get to 32 degrees, corn pollen becomes very, very, very susceptible to not producing seed. And so we've had with 34, 35 for 15 days, and it absolutely devastated things for corn and that. There's quite a few guys after taking corn for silage. In the west of Romania, in Timișoara, that area, where there's very good farming and very good land, they got more rain over winter, and their wheat and rape was good, but they got a week of 41, 42, and it's just devastated their corn and sunflowers. And I think this is the what's worrying everybody here is the huge surge in temperatures.
Okay.
We get 34 or 5 degrees for a day or two and it'll be over, but to get 15 days of it, and we're now back into that again, that is the big concern.
So go back to Jim for a second. Did you get all your spring crops in and they emerged and you actually had a crop in front of you to hopefully get, if you like, a crop out of them? Did that happen?
Michael,
okay?
we have great seeding capacity. We have great seeding capacity, and so we really get on with it. To give you an idea of the capacity we have with the 4 big seeders, from the morning of the 5th of April to the morning of the 20th of April, they seeded over 16,000 acres.
Wow.
4 seeders. And so that was great help. We have about 80 hectares of sunflower that didn't emerge because we're all the time taking on new land, and it's always up to the last minute for the swapping contracts and problems with it. So it's about 80 hectares of sunflower that didn't emerge, but we got 50 millimeters of thunderstorm in that area, and we bought some short cycle sunflower and we reseeded them. Now, will they come to anything? I don't know. The sugar beet is just amazing, and how it stuck to us to date, I can't believe. We seed 120,000 seeds a hectare. We've got 100,000 plants, and they're very uniform. And the beet is very nice considering it's only had 10 inches of rain.
Do you have any access to irrigation at all, Jim?
No.
Or is that something that's just out of your reach?
We don't, Michael. Now, there was in this area, quite in the time of communism, quite a bit of land irrigated, but all that system was basically, the whole lot of the infrastructure was stolen. All the pumping stations, all that, when communism collapsed. There is, as you know, I'm very involved in the investment world. This thing with all the big hedge funds that, the irrigation is the answer to the maiden's prayer. Well, it's not, because irrigation is fine. It's a huge capital cost. But the problem with irrigation is you can only venture down that road if you've got a very secure water supply. For instance, the 3 biggest counties for irrigation in the southeast of Romania yesterday morning stopped irrigating because the Danube has gone too low. They were pumping all the water out of the Danube, and the Danube is too low. And so now you have guys who have crops at very vulnerable stages, who spent a lot of money on inputs, who spent a lot of money in irrigation, and have no water today. That's a really tough situation.
Yeah, geez, it sounds pretty horrendous all around there. So if you were to kind of take I suppose to give our listeners a little bit of a view on it, you were very much saying that your part of the world, just around the eastern third of Romania, is pretty bad. But if you were to look a little bit further around your overall region there, because I think we are hearing that in the Ukraine it's very dry, apart from all the other kind of compounding issues anyway. But it was very dry anyways. But is that entire region going to end up in a much lower
Absolutely.
harvest all the way across
Michael,
there?
the yield of maize is dropping like a stone by the day. The projection was for Romania to produce 15 million tons of maize, grain maize. That yesterday was forecasted at 7.9.
Wow.
And it stretches. I've got a friend farming about 200 km south of Kiev, and it's all the way right across to him and further on again. So this is a very large area, and it's all across southern Europe. I call them our supreme leaders in the EU Commission. They just fail to realise how vulnerable food supply is as climate change, the effects of climate change kick in, because it's hotter and drier than any of us ever witnessed before. It's hotter and drier. We had a drought in 2015, Michael, here in Romania, and it was the worst. It was the worst drought in 70 years. But now, a few years later, we have a worse one, because we have 220. In 2015, we got 310 millimeters of rain in this period. 1 month ago, and I don't think we're going to get 100 millimeters of rain over the next month. And I'll be very happy if we do, but I very much doubt. So this drought will be worse, and the average temperature will show as well as being much higher.
So what's for maize, which is a massive crop at your part of the world? What's the critical? I mean, is time running out for that in terms of rain, or is it gone, or where is that? Is it show
Michael, unless it gets rain, the yields will continue to fall. We have a lot of very nice maize, really nice, that could yield 6 tons if it got some 1-2 decent rains, but you're looking at 3 tons if it doesn't. We have the sugar beet is becoming a big issue for us, because the sugar beet takes all the water right up to the time you harvest it. And so Michael, look, here's the thing we've got to do. We've got to all change, get smarter rotations, move completely to no-till, judicious use of cover cropping, where we didn't kill cover crops early enough, gave us a bit of some problems as well. But they've done a great job in weed control, so we know we're on the right path. But we got them in years like this. We got to terminate them a lot earlier. But this year is just so extreme. It's really making a lot of people scratch their heads and say, hey, food security mightn't just be as easy as people think. And we have this huge green agenda in Europe, and just moving toward that. The farm to fork strategy, there has been no impact study done on that. Okay, and so if you take here in the Balkans, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, a lot of people, the pension for the elderly is €200 a month. In Romania, in the month of June, we had 15% inflation. And if we have our leaders trying to cut food production by going organic, Michael, our wheat shields are down for 40%, but our organic wheat only produced 57% of what the conventional wheat produced.
Yeah, this is no surprise, I suppose, to many of our listeners. I mean, it's a difficult.
People are very concerned, Michael, around the drop in grain prices because of the opening up of the Ukraine grain supplies. The market is still at the level, which was an amazing level for all of us, at when the war started. I got some very good slides from StoneX yesterday on this, and so the market is still, very, very high considering where we've come from. Now people will be disappointed because I gather winter barley yields at home are disappointing, but this is the way it is. So and like this, the whole grain problem is across all southern Europe, even in France as well. And grain prices are, I mean, sugar prices are huge. I mean, we saw for 2021 at 26 euros a ton. We then get a price adjustment the following June based on the price of sugar from October, November, December, January, February, and March. We ended up getting 36 euros a ton. So our base price for this year moved from 26 to 36 euros a ton. And we had a meeting with the factory last week, and they're saying, well, actually, we're signing contracts forward at about 800 euros a ton for sugar, which means the price at 16% will be 46 euros a ton. You know, so like the whole food thing is, it's not as plentiful as people think it is.
So, Jim, in terms of your own harvest, just on your own farm, how's that progressing? Are you well into it, or have you got 50% of it done, or how
well,
far?
Well, the winter wheat, which is between the organic and conventional, with 2,300 hectares, that's done. The rape is done, and the organic linseed is done. So we're basically idle now for a month until the sunflowers come. And so we've seven very big combines, all at 35-foot cutter bars. And our big problem, Michael, is to stop moisture from falling too much. We never dry wheat, never ever. And so the big thing is to stop it. But what we did is that we have 2 drivers per combine, and we actually work very long days. So every driver did every second day. So he came in at 6 in the morning and he drove till 11 at night. And so if you have the combine in the field at 7 o'clock and you combine till 11 at night, and you've a chaser with each combine and a good supply of trucks, then away you go. And it just goes to show what scale does for you, Michael. Our frontline combines are the ones, the newer combines, that they will now go, the soybean and the sunflower will come together in a year like this. So 4 of them we have soybean headers for them. We have 2 Macdons, which are brilliant for soy and for wheat and for rape. And we have 2 standard soybean cutter bars. So they'll go at the soybean, and then there'll be 2 of the older combines go at or 3 at the sunflowers. And then the 4 good combines, when they finish the soybean, they will go into the corn. We'll only run, like last year, we produced 42,000 tons of corn across all our companies. And so we only harvest with 4 combines, but we harvest night and day, because these combines will knock out 50, 60 tons an hour. So the actual logistics of hauling it, particularly, now we have 4 intakes, we take in grain in 4 places within the business, but even still, when you've got 50, 60 tons an hour coming off, you know, you need huge logistics. And, you know, you're talking about any day taking 2,000, 2,100 tons. The other thing, Michael, you know, I think the listeners will be interested in the combine usage. When the Tillage and Land Use Society were here with us in 2018, there was a new combine in the shed. That combine today, after finishing wheat, has 4,300 hours on the engine.
Oh, geez,
we have 2 combines we bought in 2014 for the 2014 season. They both have now been scrapped, in that they both have over 6,000 hours, and they're actually starting to crack internally. They're so worn. So we get enormous utilization. We have to keep very low costs, Michael. You know, we lease everything and write it off over 5 years, and we just great because we can get plenty of help and good help. The drivers come in 6 o'clock Monday morning, which we're harvesting maize, and 2 drivers then 12 hours each until 4 o'clock Saturday evening, when we service everything, and we don't work Sundays because we get so much fine weather, and away you go. And we get the same utilization of tractors. We got a new case Puma on the 27th of April, went to work on a new sprayer, and on the 30th of June, every month we list the hours on everything, and had 615 hours done. New tractor.
Right. Okay.
We have 2 Pumas who are on sprayers literally permanently. They came in February 2018, and they have 10,000 hours in them now. So our machines die with us, you know. We actually have 2014 quad tracks that are worn out, absolutely black, worn out. One of them's got to be scrapped, actually, you know.
Right.
So, and it's great, Michael, our leasing costs, we're able to run because of the scale of thing, our leasing costs, we buy all the machinery through leasing, it's €100 a hectare or €40 an acre. I mean, I've had two groups of Irish people here with me recently, and they've been absolutely gobsmacked at the amount of machinery. But actually, when you spread it out over 15,500 hectares, it's a very low cost per hectare. And that includes buying grain dryers and everything. And so we've just installed another 55-ton Alvin Blanche dryer. And this year we won't need it because there won't be that amount of maize to be dried, and it won't be wet as well. Last year was a tough year drying maize.
Certainly for everything you've after saying so far, just I suppose in terms of the harvest and where that's going in terms of efficiency of your machinery, you probably do need that built into the system, being in a relatively low cost type scenario. And I just wanted to kind of come back around maybe to the yields for a second. And I know we talked before about forward selling grain and that. How do you manage that, given the fact that I suppose, look, here in Ireland, we could almost for most years, 1 year, but kind of say our average yield is going to be reasonably good. But when you're talking about a swing in your yields there, that you're talking about of 40% down in your wheat, and you don't know where your maize is going to be, how do you balance that in terms of trying to forward sell at some of those really nice high prices that were there?
Well, you're just very careful. Certainly you don't sell more than 40% forward, and you'd sell less than the maize. What we sell, Michael, is we sell what we need for cash flow for September and October. The market usually here bombs out completely in September, October. Now we need money to run the business, and we need money for rent in September and October. So that is what we sell forward. And this year it was maize, some maize, and a lot of sunflower sold forward. We didn't sell any wheat forward because since we spoke last, our concern all the time was around wheat quality. And so we're selling all milling wheat. I wasn't prepared to sell wheat forward until I knew what I had quality-wise, because you can get fairly significant penalties. Now, the good thing is we'll get significant bonuses, because strangely enough, some of the wheat actually turned out very, very well. And so it was really great quality milling wheat. And we've quite a lot of that now. We have some rubbish as well, but the percentage of rubbish is far smaller than we expected.
And looking forward then, Jim, just in terms of the next year, as you're saying, you need a cash flow for September and that to try and get crops going. What way do you see, or do you view your, I suppose, fertiliser is going the wrong way and prices are probably going the other direction? What way do you see it? What way do you view that in terms of forward buying fertiliser, I suppose, and your cropping decisions for next year?
Michael, I think what will be happening to a lot of farmers here in Romania, we will certainly drop back from, we grow about 40% maize, 40% of our land is in maize. That will drop back to 33, 34%. We'll increase the sunflowers a bit because the price is very good. Sunflowers are the only grains that we trade that's traded in dollars. And that's been, in the fertilizer business, that's been a nightmare, because the dollar strengthening is driving fertilizer prices through the roof, but it's driving the sunflower prices through the roof as well, which is great. But it's the other one, so we'll be increasing that. The sugar beet, because it's so inherently profitable with a huge subsidy and great prices, that will stay at about 2,500 acres of beet. It's just tweaky one way or another. We have bought all the DAP, all the phosphorus forward that we need. We got to buy some can drop down there in June for a little while to 560. We got some can at that. We have some UAN in stock. So yeah, some of the DAP cost us $1,100 a ton. It's painful, but there you go. There's no other choice. You got to suck it up and see. And we're ready to rock and roll. And as I said to you, we don't have to use potash, which is a huge saving. More of the land would be no-tilled. Huge thing coming from that. The way we're using water, absolutely eye-opening. What's happening with that? And on we go. And any bit more rain, we'll be flying at these prices. The thing is, Michael, we've designed our system around a very low cost system. We have very, very low costs, and we can. It's very simple. I don't mind sharing this with people. Like, our machine repairs and maintenance is €50 a hectare, and our leasing is €100 a hectare. So our machinery costs are so low, and we can buy inputs at the right price, and we don't have to use huge volumes of inputs, and we don't, because the risk factor is too big for going out, using huge amounts. And so, we can break even at a very low point. And that's what you do in this case.
And talking about risks, Jim, certainly there's this part of the world a lot of people would view the I suppose maybe the amount of grain that's trapped in Odessa and the various different ports there coming out of Ukraine and the recent deal that was done between Russia, Ukraine, and Turkey as a broker. Certainly some parts of the world would see that as a great thing. Other people, I suppose farmers, would kind of say, Jesus, this is a bigger risk. What's going to happen to prices? What way do you view it, or do you have any insight into what potentially might happen there? Is that grain going to come out?
I think, Mike, you really hit the nail on the head, the two views. We get an update from a brokerage in Constanta every Monday morning. They issue we pay for it, an information document, a market report. And there's two trains of thought. Firstly, the one is that the Russians have got a great deal. All the Ukrainians have got out of this is the market has opened up and they can sell their wheat. But the Russians have got far more in that other ships are all free to work. They will get access now to the SWIFT system to get paid for their grain. So that's a huge plus for them. Now they're going to get money as well. And then the thought is, now this has been clarified today and tomorrow, but the Russians have huge stocks of fertiliser seized in different ports. Like there's a big stock in Constanta of Russian fertiliser that's sanctioned. That all that's going to become available, and the Russians have huge stocks ready to go, and that they will be shipping like hell from now on into the market. The more cynical train of thought is that there's 30, 40 ships close to Odessa that can't move because of the war. The mines have to be cleared. Some are filled with grain, some are to be filled. The port staff have to come back. Repairs have to be done. So it's going to take a while to open up. But the thought is, among some people, that once the Russians have that 30, 40 ships out of the way, that the deal will be off again, or they'll slowly renege on it, that they will attack Odessa, because that's the prize, the jewel in the crown for the Russians, that they will attack Odessa from the sea, but they can't attack it with the mines in place, and those 30, 40 ships, they're all internationally owned and will create a huge international furore. And there's that train of thought. And I think, Michael, the thing that people need to realize about the grain coming out of Odessa, there's some double counting going on in the whole grain picture thing at the moment. The Russians are now claiming they've got a 91, 92 million ton harvest. Everyone else says, no, it's 79, 80. That 11, 12 million tons is all the grain from the eastern Ukraine that they've stolen. And they're shipping that now out of Mariupol. And so that is a couple standard. Ukraine has 3 ports open. If there was no war, if there was no infrastructural damage, if everything was perfect, those 3 ports with a push would manage 20 million tons. That's nowhere near what the Ukraine need to solve the problem. So this game isn't over yet by any stretch of the imagination. And so, it's and I think, the way the Russians have behaved and all this, that the greatest indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So I wouldn't, but I think the tillage farmers need to be realistic, Michael. 400 ton euro wheat for pig farmers and chicken farmers. This is not sustainable. And what kills demand, Michael, is high prices. I mean, there's a shortage of chicken in the market here in Romania at the moment because people haven't been filling their chicken houses at the contracts they had with the supermarkets. They just couldn't buy the feed. Tillage farmers, we've got to be realistic.
Oh, look, and I think so. I think in fairness, I think most tillage farmers here in Ireland were pretty conscious that it wasn't going to last, couldn't last, and they certainly had their eye on their farmer neighbours, especially I suppose the pig guys here, who were losing money hand over fist every month, and it was particularly acute for them.
And there's only so much money you can lose.
Jim, as always, look, thanks very much.
No problem.
So that's it for this week, and my thanks again to Jim for joining me on the podcast this week. I again want to mention the new nitrates rules, which require all tillage land to be stubble cultivated no later than 14 days after harvest to encourage green cover. This cultivation is to encourage volunteer growth to trap free nitrogen in the soil and prevent this nitrogen leaking into rivers. This will prove difficult for some farmers, and we await the final text of the nitrates rules, which are now very much overdue, and we hope there may well be some amendments to these requirements, but until these are published, the existing rules stand. Finally, don't forget, if you enjoyed the podcast and recommend it to a friend or colleague, And as always, review and follow on Apple Podcast or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And for more information, go to teagasc.ie. I'm Michael Hennessy. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with more tillage news and advice.